You're listening to Catching Up with Robin, broadcasting live from Austin, Texas.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Catching Up with Robin. I'm Robin.
I'm Ajante.
And I wanted to come to you guys tonight because I have been working on something, not all day, but probably about the latter half of today. And that is my son and I had a meeting with the station manager here in Austin. For those of you who may be listening for the first time, we have a show here in Austin, Texas, where we live called Branching Out on Air. It comes on Sundays from 1:30 to 2:30 Central Standard Time. And what Branching Out on Air is it is a show that focuses on individuals born, raised, or currently living in Austin that has excelled in education, music, sports, and entertainment. If you have lived in Austin or if you have visited Austin any amount of time, I'm sure by now that you have seen the amount of talent that Austin has in those career fields. And, you know, sometimes it kind of gets overlooked. We hear about individuals who live in other cities who have excelled in those four career fields. But with me living here, being born and raised here, being on a radio station here in Austin, I couldn't think of any better, objective or any better radio show to bring on the airwaves than a radio show that focuses on the great city of Austin and the great individuals that we have here in Austin. So ever since my son and I have been on, which is since January of this year, we were blessed to be able to kick off the show starting in January of this year. We have been coming on, as I said earlier, from 1:30 to 2:30 Central Standard Time. And, over the Sundays and the weeks that we've been on, we have had our friends and even listeners that we talk to just out in the community, throughout the community, that our time is not really the ideal time because some people are still in church who would want to listen to the show, or either they're out of church but they're driving to get something to eat, and so they're not fully able to listen to the whole show. So, our son and I have kept it on from 1:30 to 2:30, and, we've been getting a lot of positive comments from those who have listened, whether it's through email, whether it's through text, whether it's through calls on the phone, most of which we get while we're actually in the station. My phone will go off with a text, or when I get home, we'll have an email, or when we're driving in the car, we'll get a call. So we do know that we have listeners who are able to tune in, but they're not able to tune in every Sunday. And then there's an audience of listeners that we talk to who haven't heard the show, any more than the one time. And again, it's because of that time frame. And so we knew this when we first decided to accept the airtime. So it wasn't a surprise to us, but, we wanted to go ahead with our show, put our mission out, and, just grow from there. So today we had a meeting with the station manager to see what other possible times would be open for us to move our show to on Sunday. And so one of the times that we have the possibility of going to is from 6:30 to 7:30. So what Ajante and I came home and talked about after we left the station is whether or not we want to take this time, whether or not, this time will be a more, beneficial time for our listeners than the 1:30 to 2:30. Because we definitely want listeners and, we definitely want our friends, our family, just the city and the community to hear our show. Because I'm not bragging or anything about the show, but, again, we've gotten comments from our show's producer. We've gotten comments from the station manager. We've got comments from friends and listeners that we have a really good show. And we want to keep it, a good show. We want to continue to grow and go higher and higher familiar with the show, we've had guests on the show such as former star running back for the Texas Longhorns and current NFL football player Cedric Benson. We've also had Dorothy Mays Clark, who, if you live in Austin, she is known throughout the community as a vocalist. She's a playwright. She sings in the choir at her church. She's a 2010 Tony Award winner. We have had Police Chief Art Acevedo on our show. We have had Donnie Little, who is the first black quarterback to play for the Texas Longhorns. And that's just, those are just a few guests that we've had on. So, you know, we want to be able to let the city and the community hear our show if they wish to do so. And so one thing that I shared with my son, who is my co-host, is that we want to take a poll. We want to poll readers, readers. We want to poll listeners. We want to poll our friends and everyone that I can reach out to through email, through text, or through a phone call and ask them if the 6:30 to 7:30 time on a Sunday is an easier way for them to listen to us, a more better time for them to listen to us. Now, we do provide more than one way for the show to be heard. Of course, if you're in and around the Austin area, you can listen on 1490 AM or 105.3 FM. But if it is outside of the signal for being able to listen by radio, then you have the option of listening on the computer, by going to klgo.net, and when the page opens up, you can click on to listen live, and also you can download TuneIn Radio app for free, or you can download the Word app. So those are options right now if you're not able to listen live, as to how you can still, or I say listen live, but if you're not able to listen by radio, the options that I just mentioned will allow you to be able to hear the show. So, you know, we're deciding on that. And Sunday, May 19th, we're going to keep it from 1:30 to 2:30 Central Standard Time. But possibly after that Sunday, which will be the 26th, is when we will go from 6:30 to 7:30 if we feel like that's, you know, a time that's going to be more beneficial than the time that we're on now. So we're continuing to get feedback from our listeners, from our family, from the overall public as to what time is going to work the best. Because one thing that I share with my son is that he and I know the favorite stations here in Austin that we like to listen to, and we're faithful to those stations. If we have to go somewhere during the time when there may be a DJ on that whose show we like to listen to, or if there is a, you know, talk show that we like to listen to, if we know we're not going to be home, we will tune into it in the car as long as we can listen to it and as long as we're able to get a signal. So, you know, on Sunday, when we were on or still are on from 1:30 to 2:30, we're always hoping that if someone is just getting out of church, which we can understand, and they're driving home or they're driving to get something to eat or wherever else it is that they want to go or need to go, we're also hoping that they're dedicated enough to tune into us, even if it's for 5 minutes, if it's for 15 minutes, or however long they're able to tune in. We hope that if they can get a signal in their car, that they are remembering to tune in while they're in their car, and that they're hearing, you know, the show that way. But of course, we know that we want everyone to be able to tune in for the entire hour because, you know, we talk about what goes on in and around Austin that involves families being able to go out and enjoy themselves, that, you know, may be children oriented where the parents can take the child to it. We talk about events that are free. We also talk about a little bit of national news. On last Sunday, we talked about R&B singer Usher, who is set to play the role of Sugar Ray Leonard in a movie called Hands of Stone that's going to begin shooting this fall. So, you know, about the first 15 minutes of the show is when we come to, you know, listeners. And again, we talk about what's going on throughout the city. Paul McCartney, coming up on the 21st and 22nd of this month, is going to come to Austin and bring his Out There tour to the Frank Erwin Center. And the reason why we wanted to bring the news about Paul McCartney is because this is the only city in Texas that he's coming to. And there's other major cities here, such as San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas, but he is bringing his tour to Austin as the only major city. So we feel like we bring a lot to our show, a lot of difference, a lot of creativity, a lot of information, a lot of fun. So right now we're coming up on a commercial break. When we come back, I'll talk a little bit more about, the possibility of us switching our time to a later time on Sunday. We'll talk about some other stuff. So don't go anywhere. Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Catching Up with Robin. I'm Robin.
I'm a Johnson.
And I have been talking before the break on tonight's show about the possibility of us moving our live radio show that my son and I are host and co-host of here in Austin, Texas, from 1:30 to 2:30, which is its current time, to possibly 6:30 to 7:30. So I hope that we will be able to come back with you soon here on Catching Up with Robin and tell you what we decide. So that way maybe you can listen to it as well and you can call in and be a part of the show, which we always welcome. Now, other than that, today what I have been up to is just preparing for Sunday's show. On my son's show, the Ajante Update Show, he talked about Rodney Allen Rippey, who will be interviewing live, not in studio, but by phone. Rodney lives in California, and I reached out to him. I found his number. I reached out to him. I called him. I explained to him about our radio show and what our objective is with the radio show. And he allowed us to interview him. He is allowing us to interview him, and we are definitely excited about that. The name Rodney Allen Rippey may sound familiar to you if you were born in the 70s. He did a commercial in 1972 for Jack in the Box. He was promoting their Jumbo Jack, and the commercial was, "The Jumbo Jack is too big to eat." So I hope that you will tune into that show, and that you will call in with your questions or comments for Rodney Allen Rippey. If you go to our website, which is www.branchingoutco.co, and then go to the BOOA show, that is an actual link once you are on the website. It's BOOA show, which stands for Branching Out on Air. There you will be able to read a little bit more information about Rodney Allen Rippey. We didn't put too much information there because we do want you to tune in Sunday and actually hear Rodney, share his story, share with us what he's been up to. He's actually been up to some pretty amazing things. I've had a chance to talk to him by phone about 3 or 4 times now as I've been reaching out to him, just coordinating the interview with him and letting him know how the interview will go. Since he's not going to be there in studio, I want to make sure that all guests are well informed about the commercial breaks and the time frame for the interview. So if you go to branchingoutco.co, which we definitely hope you will go to, and then go down to the BOOA show. Of course, we want you to look at all the pages of the website, but if you want to learn information about Rodney Allen Rippey that we have posted there on the website, as well as the phone numbers and the ways that you're able to actually hear the show if you are outside of the Austin area and you can't get a signal, the website will give you all that good information. We do hope that you call in if you have time. The interview will be from 1:45 to 2:25 Central Standard Time because we are here in Austin, so we follow Central Standard Time. So Rodney is ready to answer your questions or hear your comments. He wants to know what you have to say and what it is that you want to ask him. And I'm glad that, you the public are able to call in, because it is an interactive show. Even though my son and I are going to be asking Rodney questions, we may not ask a question that you wanted to know, and we may not, he may not comment on something that you want to know about. So this is your opportunity to ask the questions to the one and only Rodney Allen Rippey. So we have a little bit more of the show to go. We're going to take another commercial break, and then we're going to come back right after these words.